Welcome to the Recovery Lab podcast. We're glad you were able to join us. Recovery Lab hopes to destigmatize addiction and normalize recovery.
Our platform provides an avenue to share the many stories of those that have recovered from addiction, providing for the listener the most basic antidote to addiction. Hope.
All right, everybody, we're back. This is episode number 60 of the Recovery Lab podcast series. My name is Drew Hassan.
I'm Daniel Anderson.
We are the Recovery Lab. Did I say it was episode 60?
You did, in fact.
It's got a nice round number. It's pretty impressive. I feel good about us.
Yes. Very good, very good.
Well, we're joined today by Julie Crutcher. Julie, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
We really appreciate you taking the time out of your life, because I know it's not an inconvenience to be here. So thank you.
No, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we really, really appreciate it. I know very, very little about you, and I'm very, very excited to learn the little time that we've had talking here in the studio since you got here. I feel very positively about the fact that people are going to be helped today by what you have to say, and I'm pretty eager to jump on into it. So, Drew, let's talk about a little bit about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. If you'll do the honor for us.
Take it away.
So you just want me to start off by telling my story? Okay.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So I grew up here in the Jackson area. I'm the youngest of 4 girls. My parents divorced when I was about 6 years old. My dad fell into addiction, and my mother worked 2 jobs and went to nursing school. So me and my sisters were kind of, we didn't have a lot of, parental guidance, I would say.
Sure.
I was very rebellious. When I was in the 7th grade, my mom sent me to Chamberlain Hunt, which is military boarding school. And then I ran away. When I got back from there, I ran away. Me and my sister, who's 3 years older than me, we were gone for 3 months. And then when we were caught, we ended up choosing to go to this place called the Baptist Children's Village. And most people there were all in DHS custody. Me and my sister and one other girl were the only people there that had a fit parent, but were there because of whatever reasons. So
I went to treatment there.
you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't. It took me back.
Yeah. And
So there were only 4 cottages on one side that were A&D. I mean, this was a long time ago.
yeah, they didn't do the treatment when I went there. But they had older, young adults that lived there. It was kind of like a, just to kind of help them get on their feet and stuff, because these are people who didn't have parents,
I got you.
So it was a good program. But I ended up, me and my sister moved back in with my mother, and then I lived there for just a few months. Me and my mom did not really get along when I was a teenager, and she ended up sending me back there. And
Do you mind, because a lot of people deal with, and if you don't want to be super open about this, but you said that you didn't really get along very well with your mom. Was there family trauma involved, or do you guys just didn't mesh together, or what was that? Was that relationship something that affected you negatively in your life down the line?
I would say, yeah, it did. So I was a daddy's girl growing up, and my dad could do nothing wrong in my eyes. And so the reason my parents got a divorce is my dad had an affair on my mom. And I remember when I was younger, telling my mom, well, you should have made it work. You had kids. You should have just made it work. And,
there was no anger towards your
my
dad?
It was all towards my, yeah.
Wow.
And it was.
Yeah.
And then, my mom did the best job she could do with, everything that she had. She had 4 teenage girls.
It's a lot.
She worked nights, and she she worked 7 on, 7 off, and on her 7 off, she would work at a different hospital. So, you know, she was very, I think, like, her way of dealing with everything, she just, like, really worked all the time. And so, and I know she did, like, the best job she could do at that time, but, like, you know, it really made it where my sisters and I, we didn't really have, like, a parent at home, you know, like, really in our day-to-day life. We were kind of raising ourselves in a sense, you know. So back to the Baptist Children's Village. So I went back there and I lived there for a year, and I did a lot of therapy there. Like Chris Huff, he was our therapist there, and I love Chris. Like he played such a big role in my life as a teenager. But I ended up getting kicked out of the Baptist Children's Village, and so I went to this place called Our House. It was like a homeless shelter for teenagers. Right. And then my mom was going to send me to Brentwood.
Okay.
And my dad had been in rehab at Brentwood. I knew how, like, strict they were. And I was like, I am not going to Brentwood. So I packed all my stuff and told them I was going to take a shower. And I ran away. And I was 15 at the time. And I was gone until I was an adult. And so during that time, I got pregnant with my first son, Dalton, when I was 17. I had him when I was 17. And I turned 18 like 4 months later, but I ended up reaching out to my mom when he was about 3 months. And went and saw my mom, and she met Dalton. And during the time that I was ran away, I talked to my dad and I talked to my sisters. And so,
were you still in Jackson or just kind of?
No, I was actually in Meridian.
Okay.
And then I moved. And then I went to Atlanta, and then I ended up coming back to Jackson, and then from there I ended up moving to New Orleans when I was 19. And so I had my second son, Jalen, when I was 20. And I had him in New Orleans. And when I was living in New Orleans, I was living like a fast, crazy life. Yeah. And I dated this guy that was a lot older than me. And he was wealthy, and he had a lot of drugs. And I would say, like, I really was dabbling in drugs as young as, like, 13. But I would say, like, my real true addiction started like when I was in New Orleans. And I didn't realize that I was really addicted until I moved back to Jackson and realized how expensive my drug addiction really was. Yeah. So I ended up moving back to Mississippi. I think I was about 22 when I moved back to Mississippi. And I lived with my sister. And then I enrolled in hair school for like the third time. And I worked at Tico's. And then, you know, I didn't really know a lot of people here, like, with, you know, that were like in the drug world at that time, because really most of
working in a restaurant's a pretty good place to meet them.
Yes. But if you want it, like, you can find it. And so at some point I, you know, wanted to get high. And so I seeked it out and, you know, I started getting high. And then when I was, Jalen was right before Jalen turned 4, which that's my second son. I actually got caught in Flowwood with him with me, and I got a possession charge. And so I went to jail, and my sister ended up getting Jalen and Dalton. And then Judge Broom was very, very tough on me. He was like, you fooled me once, but you will not fool me again. You will not get your kids back until, you are sober. You have to pass a hair follicle test, all that. So.
He died recently.
I know. That makes me so sad. I really love
nice
him.
guy.
Yeah. So then when I got out of jail, I ended up, just going right back into that life. And that's when I would say I really started just like identifying as a drug addict, because it was like in my mind, I remember feeling like I cannot not have, my drug. And my drug of choice was meth. And so
you're amongst friends here.
Huh?
You're amongst friends
yes.
here.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was my drug of choice. And so I just really got deep into my addiction then. And in April of 2014, my sister was murdered in a murder-suicide. Her husband was a cop, and he worked for Hinds County, and he also was like on the DEA, like he was on the drug enforcement task or whatever. And he killed her and then killed himself.
Damn, I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. That's okay. And I remember so whenever my kids were living with my sister, I would get to see them once a week at the DHS place. And I would go in there to court, and I was just very, very honest with Judge Broom. They would do a hair follicle test, and I would fail it, and I would just tell him, look, I'm sorry, I can't get it together, but please don't not let me see my children. Please let me see my kids. And he always continued to let me see my kids, at the DHS place. So then when my sister died,
that was the sister that had your kid?
No, my sister Amber.
Okay.
So she's next to the youngest.
Okay.
My sister Lindsay, which is next to the oldest, she's who had the boys.
Okay.
And so, and growing up, me and my sisters were always like really, really close. And Lindsay had really strong boundaries with me, and I get it because, at this point, she's putting my kids before me as her sister.
Right.
So she had really strong boundaries, but when all of that happened, all my family, like my sisters and my mom, they all kind of gathered at Lindsay's house, and I wasn't really welcome. I wasn't welcome there because my kids were there. She didn't even want me to know where she lived at the time. And I remember just feeling so alone, and just that's my sister too, I lost somebody too. And anyway, I ended up finding her house and showed up there. And so they ended up doing an emergency hearing and doing a no contact order on me with my boys. So, we had the funeral and everything, and then, and I was very, very deep in my addiction at that time, and I then got pregnant with my little boy Julian, and so I had gotten sober, and I was sober for 6 months of my pregnancy. And then there was a fire that happened, and I burned my whole face, both of my hands, my arm, and I had to go in the hospital and get surgery and all this stuff. And during that time, the guy that I was with, he cheated on me with this other girl, and he got this other girl pregnant. And at that time, I would say I was I guess I was sober, but I wasn't really sober-minded.
Sure.
And circumstances I could fall because of circumstances. Right. And so I fell back into my addiction then. And so the last 3 months of my pregnancy, I was using. And so when I went to go have him in the hospital, I tested positive. He tested positive. And so I did not get to leave the hospital with him. And I remember just, that was probably like the darkest place that I'd ever been. Like,
It's okay.
I remember just like having such anxiety that would just like I would just like say cuss words, like just blurt it out because it was just like uncontrollable. And I was just, that was probably the darkest place I'd ever been. And just, I was just really, really deep in my addiction. And then about, like I didn't go to my court date because I was on drug court and I was running from drug court. So I didn't go to my court date because I knew I was going to have to go to prison if I went to my court date. And so, a few months later, they end up kicking my door in and I go to prison. And so while I was in prison, I spent about 11 months in prison. And, so whenever I got out of prison, the only people that were really there to help me were people that I used with, you know? So my friend, she came and got me, and within like 2 hours, I was using.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but she, I don't, like for me, even in my addiction, like I have to have like a level of comfort. Like I have to have like my makeup, my hair, my clothes. I have to have like a stable place, you know. I can't just, I'm not somebody who like can just,
from room to room.
Yeah, like I need my stability. And
that's hard to come by.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially with men.
Yeah. And so I always had like I would say like there was like 3 guys in my life that were always like there. They would like, you know, help me, pick me up whenever I needed it. You know, they would whatever, give me a car, let me stay at their house, you know, just help me, you know, kind of get on my feet. And so at that time, every single one of those people were either in rehab, prison. They were like out of reach. And I felt like that was God, like, you know, taking that away from me so that I would be like vulnerable, you know, and like
And forced to look at the reality.
forced to like, okay, I've
To
got
work, yeah.
I've got to get my life together. So, my mom, I was talking to my mom, and she said that someone in her prayer group at church was part of a ministry called Crossroads. And so she was like, you know, want me to go to Crossroads. And so one day I just called her and I was like, okay, Mama, I'll go to Crossroads. Like I'm ready to go. And it was like 3 weeks that I was messing up. I got out on January the 7th, and this was on February the 14th.
What year was this?
This was in 2016.
Okay.
All right.
Mm-hmm. So, I called my mom, and so Miss Vicky, I talked to Miss Vicky DeMoney, and she said, just sit tight. I'm going to see if I can get you a bed by Monday. And so I remember I was kind of in like a deep depression. Like I didn't use that whole weekend. I just like slept and probably took like 10 showers a day. Just would get in the shower, get in the bed, you know, just back and forth. And
It's a
then,
dark place.
Mm-hmm. It was. And so then I ended up, Miss Vicky called me, or my mom called me that Monday morning and was like, hey, she has a bed. And where are you at? Let me come get you. So told my mom where I was at. She came to Jackson. She came and got me. And I went to Crossroads. Well, I was there for like a week, and then I had to go to my drug court.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go there, they sanctioned me to 30 days in jail. So I did my 30 days in jail, and then I got out and I did the program. And everybody was everybody at Crossroads was a little worried about me. They were scared that I was going to mess up because I'm a runner. I always run from stuff. And so I remember she had moved people that had gotten there after me to the second phase house and made me do like my whole 4 months at the first phase. And I just bit my tongue and was like, okay, well, I'm gonna show them. And so finally when I went to the second house, I was there for a little while, and I ended up getting the job I'm working for, the people I'm working for now, which is Musi. And I started off working in the back.
I thought you were going to show everybody your,
I do have a Musi
your
cup.
Musi mug.
There you go.
So I got a job there, and I was on drug court. I'd been doing the drug court for the last 4 months. And while I was in the second phase house, there was a lot of people relapsing because the way it was, they had just opened that house, and the way it was ran, it was like you go from first phase, which is like a lot of rules, super restricted, to this second house that was
a little more freedom.
You had like 4 rules: be home at 11, go to church, no drugs, no boys in the house. And that was kind of it. And I saw a lot of people relapse. And at first, I would kind of pull them aside and be like, hey, you can really tell that you're high. You know, I would try to help them. And then,
slow it down, girl.
Yeah.
Doing too much.
Yes. And then they would do it again.
Take that headlamp off.
It's 4 a.m.
There is nothing on the carpet.
No, really. It was crazy stuff. And so finally, I just told everybody in the house, I said, hey, look, if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here in the second phase. If you're getting high, like I'm telling Miss Vicky and I'm telling Renee, I was very transparent with everybody. Like,
so it sounded like something clicked and you began to kind of take things seriously.
Really?
And you realized that, hey, these people are not.
Prison sucks.
Right, right. That could be a good motivator there.
Yeah.
yes.
But it sounds like you began to
Buy in
shift.
to the program.
Yeah, a little bit. You went from, just kind of complacent, like, oh, whatever. They're, you could have just been like, whatever, these guys are getting high. I don't really care. But there was some sort of conviction in your heart, like, hey, like.
Well, you could have been like, where's mine?
Yeah, you could have. Yeah. But it sounds like the light kind of started to flicker on inside of you.
It really did. Like when I decided to get sober, like when I called my mom that day, it was literally like God took it from me all at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like no looking back. And then with me being on drug court, that really gave me accountability.
Sure.
And there's something that really resonated with me, like when I was at the Phase 1 house class that Miss Vicky did. She explained our brains. She said, think of your brain being like a path, and your choices being water. And like for years, you've made these bad choices, and that path in your brain is so comfortable. Water flows down it. It's a river, And so when you start to you change your ways, that water flows down a new path. And it's very comfortable for the water to go back to the old path.
Right. Water takes the path of least resistance.
Right. But the longer you are living your new way, and the water's going down this path, the old path starts to grow up, and it's not as comfortable. The water starts flowing this way comfortable. And that really, really like resonated with me. And I was like, I'm a visual kind of person.
Yeah, that's a real good visual right there.
And so that kind of clicked with me. And then, the accountability of drug court, drug testing twice a week, going to court, once a month.
You were on Rankin County Drug Court?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Rankin and Madison County. Yep. So, yeah, that really, really just clicked for me. And so when I was at this, we didn't have a house mom at the second house, at that time. And so I kind of by default
stepped into the role.
Kind of was like the house mom, you know. I set the alarm at night. And everybody knew, like, if you're high and I know it, I would call you out right there in front to your face. Mm-hmm. But I would also, tell Miss Vicky, and it wasn't a secret, like I called her. So, it is what it is kind of thing. And what I see with a lot of the women that go through crossroads or just that are in addiction is they have this thing of like, oh, I'm not snitching. I'm not, like they're going to be labeled as a snitch or something. And it's like your loyalty, like when you decide to get sober, like your loyalty needs to be to the people that helped you get sober. Like,
right. And to yourself.
Yeah. And to
There's
yourself.
a certain sense of like I'm valuable enough to risk being called a snitch or a rat.
Right. So anyway, so while I was at Crossroads during that time, I really just kind of grew, and really seeing people relapse really made me see addiction for what it was and made me be like, I do not want that, And so I ended up getting pregnant with Sophia while I was at Crossroads. Oh, and another thing, ultimately, whenever I went to rehab, like when I first went, I knew that like my sister had my two boys, but with Julian, like I knew that like if I didn't get my life together, I would never, see him again.
Where was he?
He was with my cousin.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so, they ended up taking me to court to terminate my rights.
To Julian?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And so everybody was trying to get me to just sign my rights over. And they thought like, oh, this, if it's going to be my downfall, it's going to. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, I have to fight,
Right.
And so whenever I went to court for that, there was nothing they could say about me that I didn't already say about myself or own myself that I did. I know that I made choices that have really hard consequences, and that, and ultimately I did. My rights were terminated of him, and I'm at peace with it because I know that one day he will know me. And I know that I did everything I could do at that time to fight for him. And that ultimately, it was my choices that got me and him where we were at. So, yeah, he's with my cousin. And so fast forward, I started working at Musi, and then.
How did you get that job?
So a girl at the house, she was working there.
Okay.
And if y'all don't know what Musi is,
I did a little research when you told me about it this morning. It looks pretty awesome.
Yeah, we make bath bombs, soaps, candles, salts, hand cream, lotion, face sheet mask. We have a lot of beautiful things.
Do you have a storefront in Canton, or is it just like,
It's just our studio where we make everything.
All right, cool.
And when I started there, we only made bath bombs.
Okay.
So, and I've worked there for a little over 7 years now.
Wow.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And
talk about stability. Having that is got to be really, really helpful.
Well, they really
wrap their arms around you?
Yes, like they play a huge role in my life. Like Leisha and Adam are like amazing to work for. I started off, in the ballroom, And then they ended up giving me a promotion to like the front desk receptionist. And then I got another promotion as office manager and Adam's assistant. And now I am the purchasing manager and the office manager. And we're a small company, so I wear a lot of hats, but that's my title. But I mean, they really saw me for where I was and not for where I had been, you know, and they saw like potential in me and like really just took a chance with me. And not only like the girl that works at our front desk now, she came from Crossroads. Our receiving manager came from Crossroads. Our production manager came from Crossroads. Like a lot of our people that are in leadership position are in recovery.
That's awesome.
So
it says a lot about the owners of the company. You know, it really, really does.
Yes, and they're like family. You know, like I would consider them friends and family. And I feel very, very blessed that I work for them. And actually, also Miss Vicky at Crossroads, her offices, we rent them our annex next door, and so her girls are there, you know, right next door every day. That's awesome. So when we need extra hands, they'll send their girls over, and every time they have girls that are graduating, we hire them. So we have awesome. It's a really good little collaboration that Crossroads and
it just sounds like just a real positive atmosphere, which is something that's really, really helpful for those of us that are, you know, especially in early sobriety. That kind of stability can go, it can do a lot for someone. So that's awesome.
Yes. Sorry,
I completely knocked you off there.
No, it's okay.
So you've been at Musi for a while, and you're still at Crossroads.
Okay. I was at Crossroads, and then I ended up. So
you got pregnant with Sophie.
I got pregnant with Sophia, and I lived with Sophia's. Her dad was in prison, and so he went to prison about a month after I got pregnant with her. And he was gone for like 3 years. And
is this the guy I know?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so during that time, I was really just focused on being a mom and working. Like that's all I did, you know. And then I ended up moving in with Miss Vicky, and when Sophia was about 1.5 years old. Because I really felt like I just needed my own kind of stability for Sophia.
Sure.
And so I ended up living there, and then when COVID happened, my boys. So over the time, like when I first went to Crossroads, my sister would let me talk to them on the phone, and then it was. We could meet at a park, like a, you know, neutral place. And then it graduated to me getting to come to her house. Then it was like me come to her house every other weekend. And then by the time I was living with Miss Vicky, when COVID hit, my boys would be at my house for 1 week, her house for 1 week. And so then one day she asked me, she said, so are you, like, what, we're fixing to move. What are your plans, like, with the boys, you know? And she had never really, like, my sister, like, she really stepped up, like, when I was in
your shenanigans.
Yeah, so, but she also, like, you know, was very close to my boys and very protective, you know. And so when she asked me that, I was like, oh, well, you know, like, let me think about it. I told Miss Vicky, and Miss Vicky was like, Julie, I think you can do it. And I was like, I don't know. Like, with, you know, I was looking at my bills and my money, and she was like, I think you can do it. So, Excuse me one moment.
Yeah.
So I ended up looking for a place to live, and I was looking in the Flowood area. And I put in an application at another apartment. It was in Pearl. And I didn't really want to live in Pearl, but I was like, well, let's just see, how it goes. Well, I was laying in the bed one night and I was looking and I found these apartments in Flowood, or Brandon 047. And so I filled out the application and paid the little fee, and it said, are you a convicted felon? If so, explain. And of course, I explain a whole paragraph of like, this is how long I've been sober. This is, and give a bunch of references. And so the next day, I was very eager to know. So I called him, and the guy was like, oh, yeah, the guy that normally shows the place, he's out of town. I can show you the place. How long, can you meet me in 30 minutes? And I was like, yeah. And then he sent me a text and was like, oh, wait, let me look over your application and then I'll text you back. And so I went and told Miss Leisha. I was like, Miss Leisha, I'm so nervous. I need you to pray. And I called Miss Vicky and I was like, I need you to be praying because I'm meeting this guy. And, they asked me about being a convicted felon and all this. And so when I pulled up, the guy said, I see that you live with Vicky DeMoney. He said, my mom and her did prison ministry together when I was a kid. And and he said, if you live with her, then you're good. And he said, the person that normally does the background check is on vacation, and the person that normally shows this place is on vacation. And he was like, you're good. And I was like, well, let me go to the bank and get you the deposit. And so I really felt like that was like a God thing,
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
How could you not?
And so I got my apartment, and then so Jalen, so Dalton, my oldest son, always, wanted to live with me. And so Jalen had said he wanted to live with me, but me not knowing, he really was, going to say he wanted to live with Lindsay. And so I found out from somebody, and so I called Jalen and I just asked him, I said, do you want to live with Lindsay? And he said, yeah. And I said, okay, well, why didn't you tell me this? And he said, well, he just, he didn't tell me. And so I said, well, that's fine. And I said, but I'm your mom and I'm going to fight for you. And I said, you can, I get it, because he had lived with her since he was 4. And so they lived with her for 7 years, but for 4 of those years I was sober, just trying to get my life together, and I had another baby. And anyway, so when we went to court, Judge Broom, said, he asked the boys, he said, are y'all, I feel like I would be doing Dalton an injustice if I didn't let him go live with his mom. And so they gave me back Dalton, and then they said Jalen, they were going to transition him, come to my house every weekend, and then they were going to meet in a couple of months, and they told him to prepare that, he was going to come back and live with me. So right before Christmas, it was on December the 18th, which is my sister who passed away, it's her birthday. They called me and they told me that, Jalen's coming back, to live with me. And so, and me and my sister were not on really good terms at that time. I think that, she didn't realize how much she kind of wanted them to live with her. in a sense. But, you know, ultimately, you know, I'm their mom, and I felt like, you know, I needed to fight for my kids and get them back. And that's,
Sure.
you know, where they needed to be. So I ended up getting both of them back. And so for Christmas fell on a Friday that year. And I had gotten all my kids ready for church, and we were going to go to Word of Life. Well, I called my friend who went to Word of Life, and she said, "Oh, we're not having church today. We actually did Christmas church on Friday." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I Googled churches near me, you know, and Christway popped up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I looked at their page and I was like, okay, I have a good feeling about this. Okay, that's where we're going to go. So when I get to the church, they had all these teddy bears on the stage. And this lady stood up and she said, I just want to thank y'all for donating all these teddy bears. We do this ministry every year. We donate all these teddy bears to the Flowood Police Department. So when a parent gets arrested or in a wreck or something, to comfort the child. And when I got arrested 7 years before, Jalen was with me and he got a teddy bear. And so, like, for me, that was like, you know, my life had done full circle, you know, and it was like confirmation that I was where I needed to be. And I just love that church. They're such a great church. And I actually spoke at their Christmas dinner that they do every year. And I brought the teddy bear that Jalen had. And it was a really, really, really cool moment that, you know, it's just God's in everything, you know.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you guys, when was that? That was, where are we at now here?
That was in 2021.
2021. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what have you been up to since then? What's been going on? What's it like now in your life?
Well, so I have my two boys and
Mm-hmm.
Sophia, and then I wasn't sure if I was going to share all this, but I will. So I ended up reconnecting with a guy I dated like right when I got arrested. So 2015. Okay. So I ended up reconnecting with him, and no, that was 2020 that I got the kids back. The end of 2020 is when it was. So I ended up reconnecting with him, and anyway, he got out, and he was in prison since 2015. And so he got out, and we ended up getting married, and we have a little girl that is 1 year. She's one. She just turned one, September 26th. Well, he messed up a lot along the way, and I kind of picked up the pieces and kind of just, you know, really
held it down.
Yeah. And so and I put up with a lot more than really what I should have. I think just because I relied on him financially, that I kind of just put up with more than what I should have. But he ended up, I would say in May, is when he really, really kind of fell off, and he's been out of the picture since then. So I just had to kind of figure out, you know, it was kind of hard with
4 kids.
17, 14. They're 17, 14, 5, and 1.
I don't care who you are. That's a lot.
It is.
That's an awful lot.
It is. I've just had to come to the realization of, like, you know what? My laundry just is not going to get folded. You know, it's just the season that I'm in. And because I work, you know, a full-time job, I come home and I have to cook and I have to give baths and do homework and then, just do it all over. But I just have to remember that, like, this is the season of life that I'm in and that, like, I can do it, and,
Well, I don't know about you, but I've never grown when I was comfortable and things were easy.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
Never, ever. So I feel like what you're going through right now is doing nothing more than preparing you for the future. And you're in the thick of it now. You're in the fire, and God is kind of molding you and forming you to be able to handle whatever's next with dignity and grace. And again, like I said, growing and learning and moving the conversation forward as far as who you are as a person is not easy. And you have a tremendous amount on your plate right now. And honestly, how you're not pulling out your hair left and right is quite amazing to me, because I don't know if I honestly don't know if I could do what you're doing right now, but I do know in my heart that God's not going to put anything on your plate that you can't handle. And I feel like what you're doing now and how you're handling yourself now, a lot of people couldn't do that. So I would encourage you to, no matter what, I don't think that you're ever going to give up. That's not what I'm saying at all. I certainly don't think that's ever going to happen. But just remember that, this is temporary. It's not always going to be like this. And if we stay sober, we really can't fail.
Right.
It's going to be hard, and for anybody listening, if you're sober curious, don't ever think that just because you're sober, things are going to be easy. That's not the case at all. But,
right.
You're kind of knocking it out of the park right now. As far as not giving up and taking care of the needs of your family and doing what you got to do in order to survive. And, I would also, I would encourage you, this is not always, like I said, this is temporary. This is the season that you're in now, and God, everything happens for a reason. The good, the bad, the ugly, everything.
That's right.
For me in my life, when things are really, really difficult, I try to run to those difficult things with compassion and love, because I know that what's going on right now, I'm learning from that, I'm growing from that, and I'm grateful for that, even though it may really suck right now, from time to time. So I want to applaud you for, sticking with it and not giving up. I think the only way that we can fail is if we give up, period.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I really prayed. When it came down to it, I just was like, I basically, was like, you have to go to rehab or you can't be here.
Yeah.
And, ultimately, when you give someone an ultimatum like that, you have to live with whatever they choose.
Right.
And he chose the other life, which is,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. So, and I really prayed, because I was praying, like, God, please, like, just reveal the truth to me, like, so I can break these soul ties, because I'm such a forgiving person, and I get over stuff, like, really fast. And so, and, he kept trying to, like, suck me back in and try to come, home and stuff. And I just prayed about it. And then, things were revealed to me that I was, like, able to say, okay, I'm done. Like, I can break these ties. And then I was praying. So I share my story often with the girls next door at Crossroads. Whenever they get a new group, I'll share my story to just try to give them hope. Like, like I'm telling you, like, if y'all knew me 10 years ago, you wouldn't believe the person I am now. Like, I've been there, and I was in the deepest addiction, and I've done every drug that there is to do. And, like, I've been in the darkest places. So if I can do it, I mean, anybody can do it. And I know everybody says that, probably that's in recovery, because we've all been there. But I also prayed. I was praying that, like I could use my story. God could use me in other ways to help other people. And then like literally a week later, I get a text from you asking me to come on this podcast. And I was like, that's God, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
So, yes. And like all of this, like everything is literally God that did it. You know, God's hand has like been on my life, like tremendously. So, like if I didn't have God, like I don't know how I would do it, but
It'd be a lot harder than it is right now. I can guarantee
and I've
you
had
that.
so many people like help. Like my church has been so good to me. My you know, people at my work, my bosses, you know, like just everybody has just made sure that like I'm okay and I'm good and like I'm in such a better place now, you know, than I was when I was in that relationship. It was very toxic. So I feel like, you know what, like I would rather be by myself and like have my kids and just be in chaos than to be in the toxic, you know, relationship that it
Right.
was.
It sounds like you're in a pretty awesome place right now. And also, I mean, I'm just going to do a little shameless business work right here real quick, Drew. It sounds like you and your bosses need to come in here and do a podcast every week and promote the new products that you've got, talk about what you've got going on. Like, give that some serious thought. Take that to them. Like, and then you could sell ads and have that as more income for the business. Lots of things, lots of businesses come in here and promote their things that they've got going on. So, you know,
Yes, I would love, like Leisha, she's done a few podcasts. She's actually talked about starting a podcast.
Isn't it?
Here you go.
She,
He's a podcast producer. He does like
okay.
Yeah, I have
15 of them.
Yeah.
She is a lovely, lovely lady. And I don't know if y'all know much about her, but y'all can look her up on Musi. She has a few videos on there.
Yeah, I saw one of her videos.
But
That's why I'm talking about this right now.
She has a passion for people and women and just vulnerable people. Like she has a passion to like help people. And then Adam, he's just so great. He's like a brother that I never had. He is just, he's really good too. And then them two together are just amazing. And like, I couldn't work for like a better company. Like they're so flexible and so understanding. And like for 10 months, I brought my baby to work with me. That's and awesome. Like a few days a week. And yeah, so they are like just the greatest people, and I would love for them to come on here.
Yeah, it sounds like
what a fantastic story.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
Tenacity.
That's a perfect word for this.
I mean, really, you're certainly tenacious. I'll give that to you.
Yeah, yeah. There's no doubt about that. Like you were, like there's winners and there's losers, and you are absolutely a winner.
Thank you.
The fact that you're still standing after all of this, and you're willing to talk about it, and you're willing to use your past to as something that's profitable to you to be able to help other people. We talk about that a lot, and you know that the goal. For me at least, and I certainly can't speak for Drew, but we've had this discussion in the past. The goal for me is to get to a point where all of the crap that happened in my past, the bad, awful crap, today it is profitable to me because I can use that.
Weaponize it.
Well, yes. But those things don't define me anymore.
That's right.
The negative stuff that happened, the jails, the going to jail for robbing, stealing a car and, doing the stuff that silly children do, like me.
And silly 35-year-old.
Right, yeah. Those things don't define me. Those things have formed me to be the man that I am today. And today, as a result of the learning from my mistakes and trusting God's process in my life, I'm genuinely grateful for the person that I am today. And that's only because I made a decision to trust God and to start this path of recovery and let God work in my life. I was walking away from him my whole entire using career. So today our pasts are profitable to us because we can talk about our past. We can talk about the mistakes and the missteps that we made through our lives and be able to use that to be able to help someone else who may be struggling with the same thing.
We can be for other people what some people were for us.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's what it's
That
all
helping
about.
hand, eliminate the path.
Right, right.
Well, I can see the clock up there. We're now out of time, but I get to ask my two favorite questions. All right, you ready?
Okay.
What do you do poorly in your recovery?
In my recovery, well, I was thinking, you said what I do poorly. I have really bad patience.
Okay.
But I'm trying to, like, what do you mean? Give me an example.
What part of the typical recovery practice do you do poorly?
Give me an example.
Like, I don't reach out to people enough, or
Okay.
I don't read my morning
Hey,
meditation.
and if you don't have anything, we're
No, I do. Actually, I do.
Pull it out of you.
Okay. Sorry. I was
You're
just
not
having a
leaving
moment.
yet.
Confess.
Okay. I would say that I still am very, very closely connected with Miss Vicky, who has so much grace and mercy. I would say that I sometimes am a little like hardcore when it comes to like people messing up. I'm not saying that nobody's like allowed to like relapse or mess
Julie
up.
the Hammer.
But no, but I guess I just feel
Julie
like
the Judger.
well, I just feel like, just you can be like, you're strong enough. Like you can do it. And it's like, it's a choice. And a lot of people, I guess, when people like give excuses, I just am kind of,
I ain't hearing it.
I'm not hearing it.
Shut it down. Shut it down. Do
That's
what
your
you know
choice.
is right.
You got to
bro.
do what you got to do. Yeah.
So you could say what you do poorly is you don't practice enough compassion. Is that it? Okay.
I guess so.
That's
I'm
a
kind of
great
like
thing
very
to not
blunt.
do. I love that. Jeez.
I'm just very blunt, and I'm just very like, I tell people exactly like it is. And I just, at the end of the day, it's a choice. And I know that some people struggle, and I guess I don't understand that, because for me, when my addiction was taken from me, it was taken from me all at once. It wasn't a struggle. I didn't have a second thought in the back of my head of like wanting to use. It was like, this is my goal. And like I had one major goal, and I had a lot of little goals to get to that goal. And then when I get to that goal, I make another major goal. And I just keep working towards it. Like right now, my next goal is to buy a house.
There you
know,
go.
and so like
There
I
it
just
is.
always have goals, and I just
Work towards them.
yeah.
Tenacious.
I love that.
Okay. Here's the next question.
Go
What
on.
do you do well in your recovery?
Accountability, and just speaking my truth. Not that long ago, I shared my story with some girls, and I shared my part about with Julian, and she came to me afterwards and said, for a long time, she hadn't even shared with Miss Vicky that she had tested positive when she had her baby. She was so like ashamed of that. And she said, that encouraged her. And if I could just give like advice to anybody, like if you're just honest and blunt and raw, like if you are just raw with everything and you just own everything in your life, like that's how you get past things.
I'm
And
loving
that's how
that.
you
Yeah.
grow.
Yeah.
And
That's how your past
This
becomes
is my
profitable.
doings. that did
yeah,
this.
you take accountability. Like I
Because there's some power in that. Because if it's
Yes.
my fault that I got this, maybe I can not do something
right.
and avoid this kind of consequence.
Because I
Thus,
can come up
learning
with
from your past.
I can come up with 1,000 reasons to go get high. You
Oh,
know
it
what I
feels
mean?
good.
Everybody
Oh,
can.
there's no doubt. It's amazing.
So it's a choice, you
Yes.
know. And if I could just say one more thing,
You can say it.
with addiction, in a moment you can lose everything. Your kids, your house, your car, your freedom, your just everything. It only takes one moment, but to regain it back, it takes a very long time and hard work. But there is so much that you can gain from recovery and just grow as a person. And so if you're in your addiction, like it's never too late, and you're never too deep in your addiction to turn your life around.
Right. And don't get discouraged by if you're listening, don't get discouraged about what you just said, that it can take a long time to rebuild. You will immediately feel better once you get off the dope or the alcohol or whatever your vice may be. What you're saying is it can take time to rebuild everything to the point where it was before, but that work is worth it. And you're going to hit milestones. It's rewarding. You're going to hit milestones almost immediately as you get on that path. So don't get discouraged. Oh, I'm so far down. It's going to take so much work. And right now I don't honestly feel like I can put any additional work into my life. No, that's all BS. Just trust the process.
Yes.
Take that one little step that's in front of you. Big things are built by tiny, tiny decisions and tiny, tiny movements forward. All you have to focus on is what's directly in front of you. One of the greatest things that I've ever heard, and I wish this was me, but when we have one foot in the past and one foot in the future, what are we doing? We're taking a piss all over right now. So just stay in the now, stay where your 2 feet are, and worry about focus. I won't say worry about. Focus on what's directly in front of you and finding a solution to the issues that are directly in front of you. If you can do that and God sees that willingness, he's going to meet you exactly where you are. He's going to take you by the hand and he's going to look at you directly in the eyes and say, let's do this.
Yeah, and everything you lose so much to addiction, but you gain so much more from sobriety.
Tenfold.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yep. You really do.
Look, I know it's hard to have 4 kids and a job, especially with a 1-year-old. But when you have a little more free time, you and Kimberly really are a lot alike. Like, I appreciate y'all's tenacity and your belief systems are similar.
Yes.
Y'all'd be thick as thieves.
Oh, yeah, I need to get with her and go have lunch or something.
Absolutely. And then also, I feel pretty confident that I'll be seeing you back here with your podcast, with your company. I think that's going to, I got a feeling. I just got a feeling, Drew. You ever have those
Everybody
feelings?
needs a podcast.
Everybody needs a podcast.
Because everybody has something to say.
That's right. That's right. And I'll help you every step of the way. I'll help you from the beginning of the production side.
He can do it all.
I do it all. All you guys have to do is walk in for 1 hour a week, and I take it from there. Yeah.
Oh, that would be great. I'm going to talk to Alicia.
Do that.
Yes.
Awesome.
All right, everybody. I guess we're out. Julie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.